This is my intro. There are many others like it, but this one is mine. Hello, and welcome to Boilerplate Socialism. My name is Dan, and thank you for joining me on the third episode of this series. Today we're going over the topic of what is socialism? Well, to get right into it, socialism is a political economic system wherein economic and productive factors are owned by the community and owned for the social good. This is to say that they are not owned privately and for profit. They are owned and produced for the benefit of the community, benefit of the society. It's in the name, socialism. That's the very basic definition of it, but socialism surely has been around since approximately the American and French revolutions. The first socialists were the Utopian Socialists right after the American and French revolutions, such as Robert Owen and Charles Fourier. These were people who believed in the idea of that all you needed to do to improve society was to appeal to people's emotional instincts. If all you could do was talk to the rich and appeal to their emotions, you could get them to help build a better, more perfect society, a utopia even, which is where the term comes from. Utopian socialists are fundamentally distinct from what would later be called the scientific socialists. These were the people who believed that building a better society was a scientific process. It was about analyzing historical trends, analyzing economics, and then changing society accordingly to build up its productive forces. Indeed, many of the early utopian socialist movements were in fact religious movements. They had some good ideas. Robert Owen in England established the first trade school, the first ever kindergarten in the world. But at the same time, such movements usually collapsed, either from external governments intervening or from internal squabbles. In the case of Edward Owen in Wales, when his partners bailed out on the project and took all the profits, his utopian commune, for lack of a better word, collapsed. Likewise, there were other movements, shall we say, utopian movements in the 20th century in Australia and the United States. The hippie movements in Australia, they were all shut down by police or destroyed by drugs or one way or another. Most modern countries that are ruled by a communist party today consider themselves socialist. The USSR stands for the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. The People's Republic of China calls themselves, for lack of a better term, socialism with Chinese characteristics, and even countries like Vietnam, Laos, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea call themselves socialist countries. This is because socialism has a broad overlap with communist ideology, but also has some differences. Communism is a far-off state of human development. Socialism as a form of economics still has some relations to capitalism. There's still commodities, there's still payments, there's still money. It's a far removed from the moneyless, classless society of Star Trek. So, no country that calls themselves socialist, be it Cuba, China, Laos, to a lesser extent Venezuela, are in fact a communist country, because they're not in fact utopian or utopias by our current standards. Most of the time, socialists are people who do believe in building towards communism. Not all the time, but most of the time. They believe in, if not today, then eventually taking over all industry from private interests and using it towards the good of the community. Now, this doesn't mean that they believe in the abolition of private property. Private property is different from personal property. Personal property is the Xbox you own. Private property is the factory that produces the Xboxes. So in a socialist society, you still get to own your Xbox. But the factory that makes the Xboxes is a publicly owned business that's used for the greater good rather than for profit. Maybe it'll make social surplus some years, maybe it won't, but in the long run, it will be to service society. And that is what socialism is about. Socialism, especially if you're a Marxist like me, is about a transitionary state. We're transitioning from capitalism to communism. Just like you could say mercantilism was a transitionary subphase from feudalism to capitalism. And this was before the Industrial Revolution, when everything was still about handicrafts, but it was still about profits and investment and management and capital and assets. So this is what socialism is. And I and others like myself would like to move towards socialism because we believe that it would make for better human development, better quality of life, more democratic life. Because at the end of the day, I am a socialist, I am a Marxist-Leninist, because I do believe in maximizing human freedom, human life expectancy, and human well-being. These are not abstract factors. I am a humanist, and not just in the TV tropes joke. I am a humanist, I'm a vegetarian, you get the idea. It is in fact about building a better world, and not being utopian, about being scientific about building a real world that can stand on its own two legs. Not a fictional world, not a hypothetical world, but a better world that can be a step towards a utopia, which itself would only be a step towards a still better world. I want to thank you for joining me today. Please remember to like and subscribe. Today I did in fact use a script, and it helped me a great deal. Join me again next week on this very day. I want to thank everyone who has subscribed, everyone who has given me a thumbs up and a like. Your contributions are everything I need. I want to thank you for everything. Take care and have a great day. I will see you next week. This is my outro. There are many others like it, but this one is mine.